Hi, this is Kerry Shamblin with the January 2023 Vedic Astrology forecast. Here's a summary. The Sun shifts signs from Sagittarius to Capricorn on January 14th. In any given year, the movement of the Sun through Saturn's signs happens from mid-January to mid-March, when we are invited to explore how we express our individual nature in the landscape of our collective environment. This year's Capricorn transit will be different, as Sun will not be encountering Saturn, who has been in Capricorn since January of 2020. We have the chance this month to reinstate our personal agenda and goals in ways that may have been unavailable during the past few years. We may be navigating familiar channels that feel awkward after some absence. The Moon. The first full moon of 2023 comes on January 6th, as the moon shines from Gemini, opposite the Sun and retrograde Mercury in Sagittarius. We could feel a sense of clarity and renewal that is partly obscured due to a dynamic of instability and frustration that is coming from the intensity of retrograde cycles that Mars and Mercury are completing. The moon wanes through mid-January, coming into conjunction with the Sun for the new moon in Capricorn on January 21st. This could feel like a solemn but hopeful moment where we collect ourselves in preparation for starting out in new directions after a long period of delay. Mars. Mars's concentrated efforts in the sign of Taurus may shift as he resumes direct motion on January 12th, after 2 months of retrograde motion. Mars retrograde and transiting through a sticky sign has caused some mishaps since mid-November that may have required more energy than budgeted and also revealed some shortfalls that need to be addressed. When Mars resumes direct motion in the middle of Venus's Earth sign, Taurus, we have 2 more months of Mars refocusing our plans, energy, and creative efforts. You may find yourself returning to efforts begun during August to October of 2022. Mercury. We ring in the new year with Mercury in retrograde motion in the sign of Sagittarius, which could be an omen that the road ahead in 2023 will require flexibility, willingness to learn, and a strong streak of analytical prowess. The turbulence of the past few years could be strongly felt during the first few weeks of January. But as Mercury resumes direct motion on January 18th, we may begin to feel a collective settling and ability to focus on new directions in education and business ventures. Mercury retrograde is great for editing and redoing already started things. Wait until the last week in January, if you can, to sign into big projects that require long-term stability. Jupiter. Jupiter continues his transit through Pisces until April 29th, 2023, when he moves to the fiery sign of Aries, joining unpredictable Rahu. We count on Jupiter for truth, wisdom, guidance, and growth, which should all be on a good trajectory with Jupiter's current placement in Pisces, which also extends to the other water signs, Cancer and Scorpio. Jupiter's capacity for giving us hope, faith, and support has been somewhat sculpted by Saturn's aspect coming from Capricorn. When Saturn shifts on January 17th, we will have until the end of April to bank on Jupiter's growth potential, unbridled. After a few years of riding with the brakes on, we may feel ourselves moving a bit faster after mid-January. Venus. Venus reigns over the relationship department, taking interest in every form of human connection, from politics to art to friendship. All of January sees Venus moving through Saturn's signs, which could bring out negotiations, creative trajectories, or relationship landscapes. Bring them under the lens of foundational inspection. Slow down and get to the bottom of the attachment dynamics. This is a good month to approach difficult issues and make steps toward long-term repairs. With Venus conducting the roundtable discussion, we should feel safe to express individual needs in the context of strong group, family, or any other relationship paradigms. Venus shifts from practical Capricorn to idealistic Aquarius on January 22nd. Saturn. Slow-moving Saturn creates long stretches of astrological weather as he plods slowly through each sign of the zodiac. We may feel the gears shifting around January 17th, when ponderous Saturn steps from his Earth sign of Capricorn to his air sign of Aquarius. Saturn went to Capricorn in January of 2020, setting the stage for a few years of deliberate foundational building that may have felt to many like a significant setback. Saturn will move through Aquarius from January 17th, 2023 through March 29th, 2025. We may feel a sense of relief that we are no longer grounded, but now we have to negotiate the instability of navigating the choppy winds that come with being airborne. Rahu. The ingenious but unpredictable energy of Rahu continues to ignite the fire signs, Aries, Leo, and Sagittarius. The nodal axis is made up of Rahu, the head, and Ketu, the tail, and moves in tandem, reverse motion, churning our lives. Rahu is in Aries through late October 2023. This shadow planet tends to agitate, amplify, and innovate. Rahu's effects are tricky, and when combined with fiery energy, could be volatile. Handled with care and detachment, this can be a powerful medicine. With Mercury retrograde until January 18th, Rahu's aspect into Sagittarius could amplify any related mishaps. Go double slow. Ketu. The resilient, silent counterpart of Rahu will remain in Venus's air sign, Libra, through late October 2023. The effects of Ketu are focused on obstruction, both the arising and removal. The environment of Libra is idealistic, political, and even glamorous. So the presence of this shadow planet, who tends to cause reversals and oscillations, could be both blocking and rewiring the Libra-type people and institutions. When Saturn shifts to Aquarius on January 17th, Libra may feel a sense of lightness after a few years of receiving Saturn's aspect, which comes across as restriction, sluggishness, and pressure. For the in-depth analysis of specific planetary placements, please continue to listen to the full planetary forecast. There's a full moon in Gemini, Punarvasu Nakshatra, January 6th. As we ring in the Western calendar year 2023, the moon is waxing, dancing its way through a very lovely array of planets, starting with retrograde Mercury and Sun in Sagittarius and ending with retrograde Mars in Taurus. This configuration suggests that 2023 may become an intense make-it-work year, where we have learned grace under pressure and are tasked with moving forward through uncertainty. We may be faced with the lack of resources that forces us into finding our creative highs that are rooted in the deepest of trenches. By January 6th, the moon reassuringly passes by retrograde Mars in Taurus and becomes full at 23 degrees Gemini, exactly opposite the Sun, and retrograde Mercury in Sagittarius. This creates a nice strand of the visible planets, stretching from the Sun in Sagittarius to the Moon in Gemini, with gaps in Aquarius, which is soon to be occupied by Saturn, and in Aries, only because we can't see Rahu. We won't be able to see retrograde Mercury, as he has combust the Sun, but after sunset and moonrise on January 6th, we will see Venus, Saturn, Jupiter, and Mars overhead. Please request a cloudless night in your local area. Punarvasu Nakshatra stretches between 20 degrees Gemini and 3 degrees 20 minutes Cancer, and is ruled by the planet Jupiter and by the deity known as Aditi, the mother of the 12 Adityas, who represent the 12 forms of the Sun as he transits through the 12 signs. This stretch of the zodiac is positive due to Jupiter's influence and reminds us that the light does return each year after the winter solstice. The themes of creativity, wisdom, and light are strong with Punarvasu. This full moon sits in the Gemini portion, a sign associated with Mercury, who is currently exactly opposite Moon and retrograde. This could be a great time to have a meeting of the minds in order to sketch out plans for the upcoming year. The moon rules our emotional, revolving, and reflective mind, while Mercury governs the part of our brain that is data-driven, analytical, and calculating. The first half of January is a great time to get on the same page, as we are then heading towards some notable shifting, such as Mars resuming direct motion and Saturn changing signs. With Mercury retrograde and also receiving the aspect of Mars retrograde, we may find ourselves pivoting and pirouetting into the new year. Mars resumes direct motion in Taurus on January 12th. That very red planet overhead in the night sky, Mars, will be slowing down and hovering at 14 degrees Taurus as he stations direct on January 12th. This marks about 2 months of Mars retrograde, which began in the early degrees of Gemini on October 30th. Mars has been spending some time in Taurus. His first pass in direct motion through Taurus spanned from August 10th through October 15th, 2022. Then came a month in Gemini as retrograde motion began from October 15th through November 13th, 2022. Since November 13th, retrograde Mars has been retracing his route through Taurus, a fixed sign ruled by Venus. This seems to have caused some turbulence for many, especially in the signs that are being aspected by both retrograde Mars and Rahu, specifically Leo and Sagittarius. Accidents, illnesses, complications, and instability may have been the theme in some area of life since mid-November. Mars resumes direct motion in Taurus in the nakshatra of Rohini, ruled by the moon, on January 12th, 2023. This could mark a redo, restart, and try again stretch that sees Mars once again traverse the latter part of Taurus in direct motion from January 12th through March 12th, 2023. Think back to the events of August 10th through October 15th, 2022, which is the first pass Mars took through Taurus. What you thought was on track for an easy creation then may have gotten thwarted or turned about in late November. Here's the window to try to readdress these projects or pushes forward. The Sun transits Capricorn, January 14th through February 12th. The Sun and Saturn will be interacting during the next couple of months as Sun transits through the signs of Saturn. First Capricorn from January 14th through February 12th, and then Aquarius from February 12th through March 14th. Sun and Saturn have opposing agendas in the sense that Sun represents our individual shine and definition, while Saturn governs how the individual fits into the framework of society, emphasizing collective rather than individual importance. In our natal charts, Sun can show how we express our ego, and Saturn can show how the world or our past karmas can oppress, negate, or obliterate our individuality or personal greatness. Needless to say, this is a great season to rebalance individual versus group requirements, resources, and responsibilities. The Sun doesn't love having to sit back and humbly surrender individual agendas. But especially with Sun in Capricorn through February 12th, it's a great time to assess personal resources, goals, and foundational plans. Though Sun's favorite signs do not include those ruled by Saturn, we may enjoy a calmer experience due to the relatively quiet vibe in Capricorn compared to Sagittarius, where Sun's transit was from mid-December to mid-January. Sagittarius is currently getting the compound effect of aspects from Rahu and Mars, which can be quite fiery, especially with Mars retrograde through January 12th. Once Sun rolls into Capricorn, it will be a great time to focus on projects and get back to work. Saturn transits Aquarius from January 17th, 2023 through March 29th, 2025. The big news of January 2023 comes from the great Saturn, shifting signs from Capricorn to Aquarius on January 17th. Saturn will plod through his air sign through March of 2025, never leaving the boundaries of Aquarius, even with regular retrograde periods during the summer months. If you're wondering what this lengthy transit may bring for you, you could reflect back to the stretch of time between April 29th and July 13th, 2022, when Saturn peaked into Aquarius and began a retrograde phase, taking him back to Capricorn until January 2023. This could have been a signal or preview as to what areas of life may be the next subjects of Saturn's pressurized effects as he pushes through Aquarius for the next couple years. When a planet transits any given sign, we feel the effects of that planet there, but also in the signs that planet has the ability to aspect, which is like giving attention with a very strong gaze. Saturn's aspects come in the 3rd, 7th, and 10th houses from where he sits, making his Aquarius transit extend into the signs of Aries, Leo, and Scorpio. For Aquarius, we get the direct weight of Saturn, who tends to cause difficulties associated with aging, illness, or poverty on the negative side. The good side effects of Saturn include humility, responsibility, patience, dedication, and unwavering hard work. Aquarius is ruled by Saturn and co-ruled by Rahu, giving this air sign much more movement due to the thin, mental, and mobile qualities associated with the air signs. For Aries, the addition of Saturn's energy to Rahu's transit could provide some stability and structure to situations that have felt unpredictable or out of control since Rahu entered Aries in April 2022. By slowing down processes, we may be able to rein in some of the chaos. For Leo, we are going to have a combination of strong energies by aspect. Through mid-March, Leo will receive the compound effect of Saturn from Aquarius, Rahu from Aries, and Mars from Taurus. This is an intense combination that suggests strongly to our Leo friends to take it easy and slow, watching for windows of opportunity that will require hitting the brakes or the gas at just the right time. Things may mellow slightly when Mars moves to Gemini on March 12th. For Scorpio, we have a similar situation that Leo had, minus Rahu's aspect and add Jupiter's aspect. Through mid-March, we'll have both Saturn and Mars pushing Scorpio, tempered with positive growth from Jupiter. Advice is to pay attention to the variable requirements for patience and power while enjoying the positive wisdom of Jupiter from Pisces as a guiding light. After Mars moves to Gemini in March and Jupiter moves to Aries in late April, Saturn's press remains on Scorpio through March 2025. This first part of 2023 could see us laying notable groundwork for projects that become prominent in the next couple of years. Mercury goes direct in Sagittarius on January 18th. Mercury enters Capricorn on December 27th, then begins a retrograde cycle on December 29th that returns him to Sagittarius on December 30th. Mercury retraces his steps in the latter degrees of Sagittarius, moving closer to the oncoming sun and reestablishing another short round of Mercury combustion. Combustion is a state of being burned up by proximity to the sun in the zodiac. Essentially, the sun is so bright that another planet traveling with the sun will be engulfed by that greater light, weakening the combust planet's effects. Planets such as Mercury and Venus most frequently fall into this state due to being inside the orbit of the Earth. This will be a brief combustion for retrograde Mercury, as he retreats deeper into Sagittarius while the sun advances into Capricorn. Retrograde Mercury will pass by the sun on January 7th, and the combustion breaks up by January 15th. The first couple weeks of 2023 could feel a bit unsettled and busy. It may be difficult to find clarity about plans and changes until Mercury settles down toward the end of January. Let's recall that on its own, retrograde Mercury can make our communication and transactions jet into hyperdrive. This gives the potential for multitasking and getting more completed or started, but also widens the margin for errors, mistakes, or mishaps. In addition to this natural retrograde Mercury tendency, this round happens in Sagittarius, which is Jupiter's fire sign. Jupiter, as host to Mercury, is giving a positive and expansive influence, especially due to Jupiter's current good dignity transiting through Pisces. This is a clue to fall back on the warm wisdom of Jupiter when the turbulence hits. Sagittarius is also receiving aspects from Rahu in Aries and Mars in Taurus, especially the first couple weeks of Mercury's retrograde cycle. When Mars is also retrograde, we could face some whirlwind energy. A great time for working with what we have, but not the best for initiating long-term contracts. Pay attention around January 12th, when Mars stations direct, to see if thereafter a sense of calm and focus begins to take root. Mercury regains direct motion on January 18th at 14 degrees Sagittarius and progresses in forward motion to Capricorn on February 7th. The latter days of January may feel a bit more settled and supportive of putting wheels in motion toward a clear goal. There's a new moon in Capricorn, Uttarashada Nakshatra, on January 21st. After the full moon in Gemini on January 6th, the moon's light wanes as we see the various other shifts. Mars direct, Sun moves to Capricorn, Saturn moves to Aquarius, and Mercury direct. By the time the moon joins the sun at 8 degrees Capricorn on January 21st, the frenetic mood that permeated our turning of the page on the new year will have dissipated. This is the first new moon since winter solstice, and from here we see the sun begin to climb higher in the northern direction each day, reminiscent of the Capricorn symbol of the determined and sure-footed mountain goat ascending a steep slope. As the moon joins the sun in Uttarashada Nakshatra, we may all take a moment of quiet to contemplate the year behind and the year ahead as we stand firmly in the now. Saturn rules Capricorn, but the sun rules Uttarashada. Here we have a liminal moment where we find the balance between self and other, calling us to make final adjustments before takeoff. The past 3 years of Saturn's transit through Capricorn surely brought some tough times for individuals and for the collective souls that exist on Earth. Many have been left with grief, lack, and painful, empty spaces. Let this new moon be a time to process the past suffering and create new growth and life from it simultaneously. Take it slow, keep it real, and be kind to yourself going forward. Venus transits Aquarius from January 22nd through February 15th. Venus stands between Capricorn and Aquarius at the new moon on January 21st, bearing witness to the new beginnings and tender hearts. On January 22nd, Venus moves into Aquarius, joining Saturn immediately and passing through his zone. Early on January 23rd, the moon follows Venus's lead, whooshing through Aquarius in a couple of days. This graceful entrance of Venus into Aquarius could feel significant, especially with the moon in close proximity. January 22nd sees a planetary battle between Saturn and Venus, brief but meaningful. Venus is a natural friend of Saturn and generally does well in both signs of Saturn. Face-to-face meetings with Saturn, however, can be intense for anyone. This could be a sign that new boundaries and frameworks for relationships are needed as Saturn begins transiting a new sign. After the initial doorway encounter with Saturn, we may experience nice effects from Venus as she moves through Aquarius until mid-February. We could see creative innovations and relationship opportunities open up. Circling back to that garland of planets mentioned at the beginning of this forecast, when Saturn moves to Aquarius, that also closes the gap in our garland. Through the remainder of January and into February, we start our chain of events with Mercury in Sagittarius and see each consecutive sign occupied through Mars and Taurus. This Graha Malaka configuration, especially with all visible planets in forward motion, implies that our trains are back on the tracks and it's time to stoke our engines. Jupiter and the nodes. The first big outer planet shift of 2023 comes with Saturn's move to Aquarius on January 17th, as discussed above. Next up, in 2023, we see Jupiter moving from Pisces to Aries on April 29th for about 1 year in Mars's fiery sign, which brings an intense conjunction with Rahu. Jupiter in Pisces is considered very auspicious due to positive Jupiter's occupation of his own sign. Jupiter in Aries will be a different mood, perhaps more active than passive, due to the influence of Mars as ruler of Aries. Mars and Jupiter are natural friends, so Aries is a decent transit for Jupiter. From Aries, Jupiter's aspects and influence extends to Leo, Libra, and Sagittarius. So people with an emphasis on those zodiac signs may benefit from Jupiter's influence starting in late April 2023 for about 1 year. There is a significant modifier waiting for Jupiter as he enters Aries. Rahu has been occupying Aries since April of 2022 and will shift signs in late October 2023, which means that Jupiter and Rahu are coexisting for 6 months between May and October 2023. This could be an explosive or fiery combination that causes us to grow in rapid and unpredictable ways. For comparison, the last time we saw a Jupiter and Rahu conjunction was from February to August 2016, when they joined in Leo. Our third big shift of 2023 will come in October when the nodal axis shifts. This is Rahu, the north node, and Ketu, the south node, who always occupy exact opposite degrees and travel in reverse motion from the visible planets. This giant churn has days when it wobbles in forward motion, but mostly moves in retrograde fashion. Due to this wobble, we calculate the axis position exactly, which is the true node, and also by smoothing the wobble, which is the mean node. By mean node calculation, Rahu moves to Pisces and Ketu moves to Virgo on October 31st, 2023. By true node calculation, this shift occurs on November 28th, 2023. So it's safe to say that we could think of all of November of 2023 as the time for that nodal axis shift to begin to affect us. As with all years, there will be ups and downs. The retrograde energy marking the beginning of this calendar year could imply that we have some twists and turns in our road ahead. The outer planets are strongly placed and literally lined up to push us forward toward new horizons. Stay grounded and keep reaching for the stars. Stay tuned to this podcast space. I will be doing a series of general 2023 predictions. So keep your eyes open for that. Happy New Year.